101.1 The Answer, the Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. I never thought that I was going to be doing another show about the strange death of Vince Foster. By the way, wasn't that the name of the book Christopher Ruddy did before he started Newsmax? He was a reporter of the New York Post, The Strange Death of Vince Foster. I'm pretty sure that was the title of the book, and it's just emblazoned in my brain. So here's the irony. The Democrats, who could not have cared less about the Epstein files while dementia Joe Biden was in the White House, have just been beating Clinton over the head. Epstein files. And so, in the last 24 hours or so, a lot of stuff's coming out. And it's weird. It's tending to make the Clintons look bad, not so much Trump, because Virginia Giuffre, probably the best-known name of Epstein accusers, she and her attorney always said that Trump never did anything inappropriate with her, and he was the only big-name person that tried to help Epstein's accusers, Epstein's victims, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay, all right, that's all well and good, but I'm looking at some of the stuff that's coming out. And there was a guy named Michael Wolff. That's Wolf with two F's. Typical liberal reporter who's trying to talk Epstein into putting out whatever he could to make Trump look bad while Trump was running for office in 2016. And he was unsuccessful in making Epstein try to make Trump look bad while Trump was running for office in 2016. But he eventually wound up asking Jeffrey Epstein about other things. Look, don't take my word for it. You can go on Twitter and you can type in Epstein, Foster, and you'll get the same exact thing that I'm going to tell you about right now. So Michael Wolff, W-O-L-F-F, liberal reporter, has an email to Jeffrey Epstein, and it's rated importance high. And this is an email Wednesday, May 25th, 2016 at 7:19 a.m. Eastern. He says, what's the thumbnail on Nussbaum/Foster? Now, Nussbaum was the White House attorney who claimed to have found a torn-up suicide note from Vince Foster in a briefcase 6 days after another attorney had looked in the briefcase and there was nothing there. And we'll get to that. We will definitely get to that. So Michael Wolff is asking, in an email, asking Jeffrey Epstein on May 25th, 2016, what's the thumbnail on Nussbaum/Foster? And the response, and this is kind of rough language, and I avoid rough language, but this is the historical record. I don't know any other way to put it other than what Jeffrey Epstein responded. Nussbaum, White House counsel, which that's what he was. Nussbaum, White House counsel, ... Hillary doing naughties with Vince. Oh, boy. Well, so when you do what I do, which is to do talk radio, not in Boston, not in L.A., not in Atlanta, not in Dallas, not in Miami, but in Little Rock, Arkansas, well, then this is something you have to deal with. Okay? This is real email, May 25th, 2016, of Jeffrey Epstein. By the way, did I mention he knew the Clintons pretty well? Did I mention Jeffrey Epstein knew the Clintons pretty well? No, please. No, I don't want to talk about Mark Middleton right now, okay? Can I just stick on? You're going to make me, aren't you? Can I just stick with this for a minute? Okay, look. If I just say what you want me to say about Mark Middleton, then can we get past that and go back to Jeffrey Epstein and Vince Foster and Hillary? Can we just do that? Because you won't let it go. Okay, Mark Middleton, Middleton Heating and Air. By all accounts, a nice guy. Deputy Chief of Staff for Bill Clinton for the first 2 years. Bill Clinton's presidency. Chief of Staff, of course, Mac McClarty. Mark Middleton got Jeffrey Epstein in the White House 7 times. Some people even say that he introduced Bill Clinton to Jeffrey Epstein. And a couple of years ago, they say that Mark Middleton committed suicide out at Heifer International in Perry County. They say that he tried to hang himself with a dollar store extension cord wrapped around a tree and shoot himself in the chest at the same time with a shotgun that was nowhere near the body. Okay, you happy now? I said it, okay? Total news blackout. Arkansas Democrat Gazette didn't touch the story. KRK4, KTV7, GHV11, never even mentioned he was dead. Nothing. Shocked me when I found out eventually that the grieving family, God bless them, actually did release a press release, which the Saline County Courier actually printed on their website. I don't know if they released it to the rest of the media in Central Arkansas. I don't have any idea. All I know is it was really weird. That's all. But I know. Talk about Jeffrey Epstein. We're in Little Rock. Mark Middleton comes to mind. I was going to try to avoid that, but anyway. Let's go back to the strange death of Vince Foster, because I remember where I was when Larry King Live broke the story halfway through an hour-long interview with Bill Clinton. And I'll never forget the first words out of President Clinton's mouth when Larry King said, "Oh, I hate to have to break some bad news. The body of Deputy Attorney General Vince Foster from Arkansas was found late this afternoon in Fort Mossy Park, rural Northern Virginia, outside Washington, D.C. The first thing Bill Clinton said was, "Well, I guess we'll never know why it happened." Which, in 1993, I didn't know that much about politics. I was still 3.5 years away from getting into talk radio. I was a DJ on music stations, very gullible, and yet that just kind of hit me wrong, because I'm thinking, well, wouldn't you want to find out? Isn't that why they do homicide investigations? I at least was watching. That's back when I used to watch network TV. Crime dramas. Dun, 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 dun. And I'm like, what do you mean? I guess we'll never know why it happened. That's your first response? I don't get it. Okay, so anyway. We got this attorney out of Detroit named Ron Chapman, who put together about a 20-minute video on the strange death of Vince Foster, and we have a few clips from it, and I always try to give credit where it's due. And some of the stuff we're going to be playing for you will be new to you. I knew almost all of it, other than the first clip, which is Bill Clinton, I guess the day after they found Vince's body in that park, speaking in the Rose Garden basically repeating what he had told Larry King on Larry King Live, CNN, the evening before. So here's Bill Clinton.
Good afternoon. I have just met with the White House staff to basically talk with them a little bit about the death of my friend of 42 years, Vince Foster. It is an immense personal loss to me and to Hillary and to many of his close friends here, and a great loss to the White House and to the country. As I tried to explain, especially to the young people on the staff, there is really no way to know why these things happen.
Why? Why is that, Bill? Could it possibly be because you fired the FBI director, William Sessions, the day before Vince Foster died? Might that have something to do with it, Bill? There's really no way to know why these things happen? Bill, you're making it sound like an act of God. You're making it sound like a tornado ripped through Mayflower and Valonia, Arkansas, and there's really no way to know why these things happen. You're making it sound like what they thought was a strong Cat 4, but turned out to be a Cat 5 in the fall of 2018 hit Panama City, Florida. There's really no way to know why these things happen. This wasn't an act of God, Bill. Somebody shot Vince Foster, and we all know that Vince Foster did not shoot himself in Fort Marcy Park in rural Northern Virginia. This is the sound of Bill Clinton pleading with everyone, please don't look into this. We'll never know because I don't want to know. Is that clear? I'm your commander-in-chief. Unbelievable, y'all. It's unbelievable. We have merely scratched the surface. I've got a lot more audio. The Gateway Pundit has a big article about it. The Democrat Gazette, are you kidding me? Channel 4, Channel 7, THV 11, are you kidding me? No, I haven't checked. You know they're not talking about this. This is what we do. We're the real media. They're the pat you on the head and tell you everything's going to be just fine as long as they can talk you into voting for a Democrat media. I'm sorry. Maybe that's not fair. I don't think they're all liberals, but most of them are. So the last thing in the world they want to do is talk about Mark Middleton, Vince Foster, Boys on the Tracks. You want me to keep going? That's not how they roll. That's what we do. And I've been doing this since July 7th, 2014, and I'll keep doing it as long as God keeps the door open. And I'm thankful that after almost 4 years out there crying in the wilderness, doing a podcast, the Lord opened the door for me to get back on the radio here. If you want to sound off and talk back, we'll try to get to your calls eventually at 501-401-1011. But we're loaded for bear. We got a lot going on today. This has taken precedence over pretty much everything. The Doc Washburn Show continues, 101.1 The Answer. Hey, I want to tell you about the best kept secret in American healthcare. It's all about getting your atlas adjusted. It's a secret that Charlie Kirk found out about way back in 2019 when he thought he was going to be bedridden for weeks. He was all banged up in bad shape. His doctor up there in the Chicagoland area fixed it by adjusting his atlas. Charlie was so thrilled, he said, hey, doctor, look, I'm pulling my phone out. We're going to do an impromptu video testimony on my phone right now. The doctor's like, well, okay, Charlie, sure. And then after they took Charlie from us on September 10th, the doctor put the video out again, and you can find it on social media. So the cool thing is that my doctor, Dr. J.R. Crabtree, Arkansas Upper Cervical Center right here in Central Arkansas, does the same thing that Charlie's doctor did. Let me tell you how it works. Especially important If you struggle with sinuses, allergies, dizziness, vertigo, blood sugar issues, fibromyalgia, eczema, psoriasis, even migraines, here's what's up. Your skull can weigh anywhere from 8 to 15 pounds. It rests on the atlas, the C1, the top bone of your spinal column, which only weighs 2 ounces, so it's really easy for your atlas to get out of alignment. And that's right where your brainstem is. And, you know, if you get out of balance there with your atlas, that can cause your whole spinal column to get kinked up like a chain. When that happens, your central nervous system isn't able to communicate with your body as God designed it to do. Now, take my example. I suffered from severe hay fever 5 or 6 weeks every spring all my life, had migraines all my life. After I got my atlas adjusted, the hay fever and the migraines went away for good. Whatever you suffer from, do yourself a favor. Call my friends at Arkansas Upper Cervical Center for a free consultation. All the contact info is on their website, turnmypoweron.com. They have helped me, they've helped my wife, they've helped so many people we know. Again, the website, turnmypoweron.com. One oh 1.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues where you can sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. Talking about Vince Foster being in the news again all these years later. They took Vince away over 32 years ago. It was July of 1993, just 6 months into Clinton's first term. So why are we talking about Vince Foster again, in case you're just tuning in? Well, Epstein files are coming out. And an Epstein email exchange with a liberal reporter, Michael Wolff with 2 Fs, May 25th, 2016. Michael Wolff is asking Jeffrey Epstein about Bernard Nussbaum and Vince Foster. And Jeffrey Epstein is responding, Nussbaum, White House counsel, Hillary doing naughties with Vince. Oh, boy. Sometimes you feel like Al Pacino in Godfather 3. They keep pulling me back. I never thought I'd do another show about Vince Foster, but here he is in the news again. Not that the rest of Little Rock Media is aware of that, don't get me wrong, because they don't pay attention. But that's fine. That's fine. So, our next soundbite is a compilation of how NBC News was talking about the Vince Foster story back in 1993. if we have it. Sometimes you push the button and it's like, no, we don't want to play. All right, here it is.
The number 2 person on the Clinton White House legal team, Foster was involved in the president's sometimes rocky judicial appointment process. He also played a role in the decisions that led to the firings at the White House Travel Office, though an internal White House review of that matter did not criticize him.
It was Foster who interviewed Judge Stephen Breyer for the Supreme Court and escorted Breyer to meet the president. He was the point man on other unsuccessful candidates for high office: Zoe Baird, Kimber Wood, Lonnie Guinier. He had been criticized in Wall Street Journal editorials.
As deputy to White House counsel Bernard Nussbaum, Foster had been involved in much of the early White House troubles. His office intensely criticized for its role in several events embarrassing to Mr. Clinton. Travelgate, the standoff in Waco, Texas, Zoe Baird, and other bungled nominations.
So they're trying to make Vince Foster look bad after he'd passed. Isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame? After he couldn't speak for himself anymore, they're trying to make him look bad. Y'all, now you can laugh, man. That's messed up. Jane Pauley from NBC Today show, she weighed in.
Frequent flyer for every. The counsel's office where Foster worked has drawn frequent fire for everything from the botched search for an attorney general to its handling of the White House Travel Office affair. Foster was never blamed. A few friends said the criticism and an editorial blasting Mrs. Clinton's former law firm did distress him deeply.
Come on, man. For real? I mean, I'm told that the folks who knew Vince certainly did not think he was depressed enough to take his own life. And there were so many anomalies, so many odd things, which pointed to anything but Vince Foster driving his car from the White House counsel's office or his... Well, see, that's a weird thing I don't understand. He was Deputy Attorney General, so that's DOJ, but apparently had an office in the White House. Anyway, there's so many things that don't make sense on the story of him driving his car from D.C. out to Fort Marcy Park and walking 700 feet away from the parking lot and then shooting himself in the head. Not a chance. We don't believe it. All right, the Doc Washburn Show continues. We just scratched the surface. More coming up. 101.1, The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. Sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. Vince Foster in the news again after all these years because Democrats just clamoring, release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. Okay. So they're releasing all these Jeffrey Epstein emails, and there's one from May 25th, 2016, liberal reporter Michael Wolff with 2 Fs saying, what's the thumbnail on Nussbaum/Foster? And Jeffrey Epstein emailing back a few hours later, May 25th, 2016, Nussbaum, White House counsel, ... Hillary doing naughties with Vince. And I'm like, oh boy. So years after I thought that we were never, ever going to do another show about Vince Foster, they keep on dragging him back into the news. So before we play more audio, we got this brilliant attorney out of Detroit, Michael Chapman, who put together a 20-minute video about the Vince Foster case. And, I wish I could just play the whole thing, but I can't. But I can certainly play the salient points of it. But first, just kind of a summary of what's coming out with all the Epstein stuff that's been released in the last 24 to 48 hours. With the release of a bunch of Epstein emails, here's what we are finding out. First of all, Epstein hated Donald Trump. Epstein didn't trust Donald Trump. Epstein's making it clear in emails to a bunch of different people he's not friends with Donald Trump. The New York Times was trying to work with Epstein to suppress stories that would be bad about Epstein. Hello! After Bradley Edwards, the lawyer for some accusers of Epstein, said that Trump was the only individual to cooperate with and help Epstein's accusers, Epstein in an email said Trump didn't have, quote, one decent cell in his body, unquote. Okay, now wait a minute. If I'm being slammed by a guy as evil as Jeffrey Epstein, in a moment of quiet reflection, I'm thinking, well, Lord, does that mean I'm doing something right? We're all sinners in need of God's grace and mercy. But if Epstein hates me, am I maybe doing something right? Summarizing the Epstein emails that are coming out, this is all so compelling that the Democrats faked the redaction of an alleged victim's name. The name they blocked was Virginia Giuffre, who publicly testified that Trump hadn't done anything wrong. And also Russiagate, once again confirmed a hoax, just like we said. Okay, now, back to Ron Chapman. This was not the great radio legend of Dallas, Ron Chapman. No, a different Ron Chapman. Ron Chapman, attorney out of Detroit, who put together a 20-minute video about the Vince Foster case. And we have none other than Republican U.S. Senator from North Carolina, Locke Faircloth, who was in office for just one term, 1993 to 1999. And here's what he said.
What the law says is a killing or assault on a high government official shall be investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Why were the Park Police in charge of the investigation?
Yeah, why was that? Well, I guess it helped that the day before Vince Foster died, Bill Clinton fired the director of the FBI. I mean, maybe that helped. Because this is going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the FBI to do its job if A, the president fires the FBI director, and B, the president says, well, he's found in the national park. So I'll tell you what, we'll just let the park police investigate it. Yeah, they're crack homicide division at the park police. As I keep on insisting, we're never going to know why this happened. But I do. I still feel your pain. Hey, Carville, Stephanopoulos, Begala, time to head back down to Doe's and Little Rock. Anyway, so let's see. What do we have next? Oh, yeah, we have a few clips from Attorney Ron Chapman, and here is the first one.
Current Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh was Starr's deputy, and he wrote most of the final report. But in 1995, when this investigation began, a special agent tasked with cataloging investigative errors that existed already sent a memo to Kavanaugh outlining very deep problems with the prior investigation, problems that could not be overcome. For instance, there was no gunshot residue samples of the decedent's hands, very rare in a death investigation. There were no full scene measurements showing the distance or location of Vince Foster's body. There was no log of who took which photographs, and the photographs weren't very detailed, and there weren't very many photographs. There was no documentation of an initial vehicle search at the death site. The decedent's pager, Vince Foster's pager, was returned to the family too early, and nobody took note of the pages that he'd received just prior. There was no photo of the left hand, the hand that apparently had a gun in it, and inconsistent statements existed about whether the body was moved and what paramedics did. And of course, we've got that briefcase and that note that was found 6 days later after what apparently was an insufficient search of Vince Foster's briefcase. An inconclusive investigation turned relatively conclusive because of a mysterious note found in a location that Hillary Clinton had access to and that Linda Tripp had testified people had accessed.
But you still think that Vince Foster drove his car to Fort Marcy Park on July 20th, 1993, a day after Bill Clinton fired Sessions, the FBI director, and the last person to admit seeing Vince alive was Linda Tripp, and Vince told her he's just going out to get some lunch. He'll be back in a little while. You actually believe that Vince Foster drove his car to Fort Marcy Park, got out of the car, walked about 700 feet up a little hill, and shot himself, even though when they searched Fort Marcy Park, that was a Civil War battlefield, they found all kinds of bullets going back to the Civil War, but they couldn't find a bullet that killed Vince Foster. Even though confidential FBI witness number 2, interviewed by G. Gordon Liddy, said when he found the body, before the police got there, there was no gun. But you believe Vince killed himself, don't you? I wonder why that is. No, I'm not talking about regular listeners. I'm talking about the friends of Bill and Hill that are tuning in maybe for the first time. Yeah, that's him. No, I'm not talking about you. No, I wouldn't insult your intelligence that way. Come on. Anyway, so let's go with Ron Chapman Part 2, please.
But there's more. A witness who arrived on the scene testified that he saw Vince Foster's hands palms up with no gun. This was later documented in Brett Kavanaugh's notes. There was an official photo later that showed a gun hooked on Vince Foster's hand that was hooked on his thumb. On the House floor in 1994, a member read the witness's sworn account into the congressional record, palms up, no gun, and detailed how that witness said that agents pressed him 20 plus times to reconsider his testimony. If the gun is in the hand in the photo but not in the hand in the scene, something moved, and bodies don't move when they're in that sort of condition.
No, they don't. And so the witness he was talking about there was FBI confidential witness number 2, the one that was interviewed by G. Gordon Liddy. Now, FBI confidential witness number 1, a fellow named Patrick Knowlton, was interviewed by a guy named Howard Phillips, the guy who started the conservative caucus, and they had a little TV show going in the late 90s, and we'll have a little clip from that, I think, here in a little bit. But I'll just never forget what that FBI confidential witness number 2 told G. Gordon Liddy about when the FBI did talk to him. They badgered him, and they tried to say, well, Mr. So-and-so, what if maybe his hands are palms down, there's some leaves over his hands, and you missed the gun? No. Palms up, no gun. And I've looked for recordings of that interview, and I can't find them anywhere. I found a transcript of a congressional committee hearing talking about G. Gordon Liddy's interview with that guy. But I can't find it anywhere. It's just like, for instance, I was telling you earlier in the show that Bill Clinton was on with Larry King Live on CNN, and halfway through the 1-hour show, Larry King announced the death of Vince Foster. And Bill Clinton said, well, I guess we'll never know why it happened. Larry King interviewed Bill Clinton a number of times. That's the one interview you're not going to be able to find a video of on YouTube or anywhere else, because I've tried. Because years later, Larry King misremembered how the whole thing went down and reconstructed it when being interviewed himself about the show he did with Bill Clinton the day Vince Foster died. Larry King, I guess, didn't know that the New York Times did an article the next morning which made clear that my memory of how the Larry King Live interview with Bill Clinton went down is correct, and Larry was trying to redo it, I guess, to make Bill maybe not look so bad. I don't know. But, yeah, no, we've got more. Ron Chapman introducing, and again, this is an attorney out of Detroit, Ron Chapman, introducing a retired NYPD detective who's saying this just doesn't add up.
Retired New York homicide professionals smelled something fishy, and they said out loud what many thought quietly. Vincent J. Scalise and his forensic photographer both agreed after reviewing the public record. They concluded that this death scene didn't add up to a suicide. Instead, they said that the placement looked convenient of the weapon and the body. The tissue and blood patterns were inconsistent with this type of death, and that the key photographs that were taken in the case were inadequate.
The only things we know for sure about Vince Foster's death is that he was dead, and he was shot in the head, and his body was found in this part. The photographs that were released with his right hand clasping the pistol and his thumb through the trigger guard looks staged.
Yeah, it looks staged. He was left-handed. So whoever planted the gun on the body put it in the right hand and had the thumb through the trigger guard. What? No, it was staged. It was for sure staged. Now, I've got one more piece of audio. I got a lot more I need to say. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but Ken Starr, Whitewater Special Counsel, wanted to stick with a party line that Vince Foster went to Fort Marcy Park and committed suicide, and a federal court forced him to add an addendum to the Starr report, which laid out a lot of evidence to the contrary, which is just unheard of. So we're going to try to take a look at that too. Why? Because, again, you wanted the Epstein files, and part of the Epstein files are a lot of emails, and Epstein is out there confirming to a reporter that Vince Foster and Hillary Clinton had an affair. And he's not the only one confirming that, but I'll talk to you a little bit more about that here in a minute. The Doc Washburn Show continues. Sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. You're on 101.1 The Answer. Yo, I know health insurance can be confusing, but I got some good news for you. My friend Tammy Chase owns an independent insurance agency in Maumelle. She actually takes the time to sit down with you in person and explain everything in plain English. Whether you're nowhere near 65 years old yet, you're just trying to figure out family health, dental, vision coverage, or you're nearing Medicare age feeling overwhelmed by the choices, Tammy Chase handles it all. She works with multiple insurance companies, so you're not limited to just one option. She finds what works for your situation and budget. She can help you sign up for Medicaid, too. But here's what really sets Tammy Chase apart. She doesn't just sign you up and disappear. Tammy and her team are there start to finish when enrollment periods come up. She helps you review and make changes, even with specialized plans like cancer, heart attack, and stroke coverage. If you're tired of feeling confused about insurance, visit TammyChaseInsurance.com. Trust me, having somebody local who actually cares makes all the difference in the world. TammyChaseInsurance.com. One 101.1 The Answer. The Doc Washburn Show continues. We can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011.